So, Jujutsu Kaisen has come to an end. Jujutsu Kaisen is finally over with chapter 271 releasing very recently. And let's just say this ending was very controversial. A lot of people absolutely hate this ending. In fact, I have not seen one person say anything good about it or say that they liked the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen. And I knew that people were going to hate the ending regardless of whether it was actually bad or actually good. But was the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen really that terrible? Are people's feelings justified about them not liking the ending? Because you guys know the anime community. As of recently, people will hate on anything just to hate. So are these feelings actually valid, or are people mindlessly hating because one person said something? Well, in all honesty, I think this is one of those rare situations where people's feelings are actually justified, and the hate that Jujutsu Kaisen is getting is kinda deserved for the ending. Now, I'm not gonna say I told you so about the ending, but I did tell you guys so. I mean, I made multiple videos on this channel talking about how Jujutsu Kaisen is getting rushed, talking about how the ending is not going to be that great because there are too many loose ends. There's too many things that haven't been tied up. But what did people say? People called me a hater. People said I don't know what I was talking about. I didn't understand the story, that I should just let Gege Akutami finish, and that the ending was going to blow me away. Did the ending blow me away? Yes, in the worst ways possible. But for those of you who have not had the chance to read the final chapter, let me give you a quick recap of the ending. Basically, the final chapter revolved around Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi hunting down the awakened cursed user that was apparently causing some trouble. They find this couple, they find the cursed user, and they figure out that the cursed user was sort of stalking this one girl, and the cursed user just surrenders to Nobara, Yuji, and Megumi, and there's really no big fight. And Yuji just has like a little therapy session with the cursed user. He tells him that, hey, all that matters is that you're owning up to your mistakes, you realize that you've done some wrong. Basically, it's very in character for Yuji at this point in time. Then we get a quick flashback of a conversation between Gojo and Yuji. And honestly, I absolutely love this interaction between them. This was probably my favorite part of the entire chapter. I thought it was just beautifully written. Basically, in their conversation, Gojo is talking about how he has his own dreams and ambitions as well, but one day his students are going to grow up and they're going to move on past him. And he tells Yuji that they need to find their own sense of strength that is completely different than Gojo's. And Yuji just tells Gojo how he'll never be able to forget about him. And Gojo just tells Yuji that he is still naive and young, and he lets him know that he has very high hopes and ambitions for him. Now, what I was not expecting to see in this final chapter was an interaction between Sukuna and Mahito. Basically, Sukuna and Mahito are both in the soul world, and pretty much Mahito says that this is the pathway right before they go into their reincarnation cycle or whatever. And Mahito and Sukuna have a very interesting discussion. Basically, in the discussion, we learned that if Sukuna were to be given another chance, he would have chosen a different route for himself. And Mahito had my exact same reaction when I read that, because Mahito got pissed off. He's like, what does that even mean? Did you like really go that soft? And Sukuna's like, yeah, I lost. So obviously I'm gonna change my mindset. And then the chapter ends with us seeing Yuta and Maki, Hikari and Kirara, and Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara all together smiling, and Sukuna's last remaining finger in the same booth that we saw it in episode 1. Now, the chapter itself is not that bad. As a standalone chapter, it's not anything crazy, but it's not anything terrible. My biggest complaint about this is how fast Sukuna's entire character switched up, because it took 3 pages for Sukuna to go from this guy who does whatever he wants to then saying that he should have chosen a different route for himself. And this is not necessarily a bad change towards Sukuna's character, it's just the fact that it came out of left field and had no prior development for us to anticipate this. However, the real issue with this entire ending is that it doesn't do anything for the series. It wrapped nothing up, and there's just so much more stuff that we could have seen that we didn't. I literally told you guys all the way back in February that Jujutsu Kaisen was getting rushed and the writing was deteriorating at a drastic rate, but people once again were too biased to see that. They really wanted to see their manga succeed, despite the fact of how many clear visible problems there were with it. Ever since the Gojo vs Sukuna fight wrapped up, it honestly felt like I was reading a different manga. The whole Sukuna fighter cycle being the exact same every 3 to 4 chapters was so draining to read. Characters weren't getting the recognition they deserved. Characters were getting completely scrapped off. Kenjaku's conclusion was so terrible. So many characters had such bad conclusions that were so unsatisfying. Kashimo and Kenjaku are the two main examples I can think of. Sukuna's conclusion was not anything crazy either. That was super underwhelming as well. What was ever the point of introducing Urame into the story? Do not ask me. I will never know the answer to that. Because what purpose did Urame serve in the entire story? Please, somebody tell me. Because if Urame and Hikari actually had a pretty cool fight at the end, I'd be like, okay, Urame is a pretty cool character. She or he or they had a pretty interesting fight. The only issue with that is that we didn't get to see a sliver of the Hikari versus Urame fight. I still genuinely cannot believe that Kenjaku got the conclusion that he got. This man was supposed to be the modern day Aizen. He was supposed to be like the greatest mastermind in New Gen. And you're telling me all it took was a sneak attack for him to be written off completely? No big final battle, no nothing. All of his plans, all of his 1,000-year plans just gone to waste just like that? The existence of curses and Jujutsu sorcery being introduced to the entire world was literally wrapped up in one single panel. That was all for nothing. We got to see nothing from that because apparently now the world no longer cares over the existence of Jujutsu sorcery. So what was ever the point of us seeing Kenjaku go to the United States in the Colon Games and tell them about everything? Yuta taking over Gojo's body was one of the best concepts in the entire series, with one of the worst executions, because the entire point of Yuta taking over Gojo's body was to answer the age-old question. Are you the strongest because you're Gojo Satoru, or are you Gojo Satoru because you're the strongest? And the fight did answer the question. We learned that Gojo is the strongest because he is Gojo. However, it was just done in such a poor manner, and the whole segment of Yuta being in control of Gojo's body could have lasted so much longer. Because realistically, Yuta taking over Gojo's body had little to no impact on the fight itself, so it kind of seemed pointless for many people. Nobara making a return in like the last 2 chapters of the fight was also just so weird to me. Like, yeah, I'm glad that we got Nobara back, but at the same time, you couldn't have introduced her just a little bit earlier. You pretty much just turned Nobara's entire character into a plot device that was necessary to move the story forward. Nobara was no longer her standalone character. Her character was ruined the moment she just became a plot device in order to defeat Sukuna. And while we're on the topic of ruining characters, that is what basically ended up happening to majority of the Jujutsu Kaisen side cast and to the villains as well. Because Gege Akutami did such an amazing job setting up the side cast, setting up the villains to be great. They could have been great. They could have been some of the greatest characters in shonen manga. However, the Shinjuku Showdown arc just completely ruins that for me. The side characters, first off, did not get the spotlight that they deserved. It absolutely baffles me that Takaba got an entire fight. Meanwhile, Kashimo got like 1.5 chapters. Higuruma got like 2 chapters. Yuta didn't have an entire fight dedicated to him, even though the entire community wanted a Yuta versus Kenjaku fight. And just so many other characters had to go through the Sukuna repetitive cycle. Meanwhile, Takaba got his own dedicated fight. Sukuna and Kenjaku could have also been amazing. They had the potential to be great, but one of them got sneak attacked and one shot. Meanwhile, the other decided to switch up his entire character in the very last chapter, which again wouldn't have been a problem if there was actual development towards this. And this final chapter frankly didn't do anything. There was absolutely zero impact in this final chapter. The manga could have ended 2 chapters ago and there would be practically no difference for me. Also, what was the whole thing a chapter prior about a clan war? Why talk about that if we're not gonna see it? This is what I mean. Gege Agutami just started introducing all of these interesting plot lines, but he did nothing with them. The potential was there, but it wasn't executed at all. But on a real note though, I don't want to seem like somebody who is just mindlessly hating on the series. I don't want to seem like somebody who's preying on Jujutsu Kaisen's downfall, because I wasn't. I genuinely wanted Gege Akutami to prove me and so many others wrong. I wanted all my criticisms to be proven wrong, and it just sucks that they weren't. Because Jujutsu Kaisen had so much potential. By far had more potential than any other new gen manga to be fantastic, and it just wasn't in the end. Like, it was so good throughout like 2/3, and then that final third of Jujutsu Kaisen was just so rushed. That's all I could say. It was just rushed. Now, I'm not gonna be one of those people that says Jujutsu Kaisen is trash because of the ending, because in all honesty, it's not. Jujutsu Kaisen has so many amazing moments that make me cherish and love the series. So I'm still always going to love Jujutsu Kaisen, but the ending was just not good. It did nothing good for the series. It wasted so many amazing characters. The fights were honestly not too great. They were pretty repetitive. The villains got done really dirty, especially Kenjaku. I mean, I still just can't wrap my head around that conclusion, man. The ending just wasn't good. That's all I could say. And it sucks that the final chapter didn't do anything good for the ending, but hey, there's nothing we can do at this point. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what other videos you guys want to see in the future. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.